Well, today is going to be a fun day. I was a little nervous about today. The staff was trying to make it on Thursday the 12th because Friday the 13th has a negative connotation. So keep your fingers crossed for me. So Friday the 13th, we're going to make it a great day. And we're going to make it a day to always look forward to as a special day that the Department of Defense delivered another national treasure. And I thought about making this 8th award, and I made a joke at the White House that this is the last time I have a chance to introduce my boss, who means so much to this department, to our country, and to the fabric of what we do, both national security and economically. He stood up behind me and said, this is not the last time you're going to do another one. So here we are, we're doing another one. And he didn't realize the chain reaction after that comment. He made that comment, and he stood up, he smiled, and he was happy about what he saw, and he left. And then everybody pounced on me. And they say, Andre, it's holiday season, we have a lot of vacation. Half of the Army was in front of me. All of my staff was there, and I said, well, you heard him. We're going to award another one. And what he did not realize was we were thinking about what could we do for him. We couldn't give him a medal. We couldn't give him any more recognition than he's already gotten from the president, from the secretary, from all of those who know him dearly in industry. But we thought what we could give him was the award of another national treasure and allow him to make that announcement. And before I introduce him formally, I got to talk about the tireless work that Tracy Frost has done. That's the person who just introduced me. And what's interesting about Tracy is in 2011, when my boss, Mr. Kendall, hired me and gave me an opportunity to serve in the administration and lead the department's small business office, I took that challenge seriously, and I went on this roadshow talking about small, innovative tech insertion companies. And I'm standing up at a conference, Small Business Innovation Research Conference, SBIR, and Tracy worked for Navy. And the Navy is real tough people. They don't like to do what you ask them to do, but they mean well. So I'm standing up there, and Tracy, I give this, what I was told was an inspiring speech. And so Tracy said, I want to work for you. And I said, well, you can't. You work for the Navy. And so lo and behold, I went and worked with our head of administration, who told me I couldn't hire anybody. We're about to go into furlough. We might be in a shutdown. And it was like the perfect storm. We're going to go into CR. And it was like, how could this happen? And so we found a creative way to give Tracy a rotational assignment, developmental assignment, and she came over to OSD. And she led the Office of Small Business Programs, SBIR, and Small Business Tech Transfer. And she was the acting program manager, and I watched her career blossom. And then when my boss graciously gave me the opportunity to come over and work as a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Manufacturing Industrial-Based Policy, I knew good talent when I see it, and I know it, and I wanted to bring Tracy, so I brought Tracy along with me. And she learned from some very intelligent people, a lot of intelligent people, and many who you know. And I watched Tracy blossom into the program manager who has now awarded more institutes in a consolidated time than anyone else in the federal government. She's awarded 3 this year alone. And I remind you, when the president stood up in 2011 and gave the Department of Defense the ability to take on this big task, this monumental task, he turned to the Department of Defense and said, you guys have to take the lion's share and make this reshoring of American manufacturing, making our technical dominance a reality. You guys have that mission. And Tracy was the person in the last month that went from something that just 3 or 4 years ago was almost an impossibility, and today have bipartisan support and have awarded things quickly. And this shows that government can work and government can be efficient. And so Tracy, I want to continue to watch your career as it blossoms, because you're going to do great. And I think that you've done a fantastic job. You put together a fantastic team, and you deserve a round of applause. And before I go into introducing our my boss who will make the announcement, I want to thank all of our distinct guests and visitors who are here today. We have Congressman Mike Doyle from Pennsylvania's 14th District. We have Secretary Dennis Diven from Pennsylvania's Department of Community and Economic Development, who's representing Governor Tom Wolf. We have Mr. Rich Fitzgerald, who's the Allegheny County Chief Executive. Mr. William Peduto, who's the Mayor of Pittsburgh. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Subra, who's the President of Carnegie Mellon University. Major General Wins, who is Commanding General for U.S. Army, RDECOM. Mr. Jeff Singleton, the Director of Basic Research from the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics and Technology. Mr. Jeff Stanley, the Associate Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science, Technology, and Engineering. And Dr. Jerry McGinn, who is my Principal Deputy for Manufacturing and Industrial Base Policy. And Mr. Ryan McDermott, who is also a Deputy in Manufacturing and Industrial Base Policy. I'd like to thank all of you for being in attendance today because it shows how important that this award is to our nation and to the Department of Defense. Now, switching gears to what y'all all came here for. It had to be him. It couldn't have been me. So, I must say, this time I do believe this is my farewell speech. And so this is the last one. He's going to have me award another one next Friday. Oh, God. Yeah. So, it's absolutely, those who know me and who work in the office know absolutely, I don't like working for anybody. So it's amazing because I came kicking and screaming a little bit into the administration, but I must say that I know for a fact that Frank Kendall's the best boss I've ever had. It's hands down. I told him that 3 years ago, and he thought I was doing performance eval time, so I was sucking up. But I really wasn't. I actually really meant it. I've never seen anybody with the breadth and depth of knowledge and a handle on the situation as this man. In fact, I was a little jealous of him. I'm on the plane with him, and he got annoyed with me. I look over to him. I said, how do you have so much energy? What do you eat? And he looked at me with that stern look, and I said, never mind. I'm not hungry anymore. Because his energy level is so high. He has the energy level that I feel like I'm supposed to have. So I'm jealous of him. I'm actually having Farouk monitor my sleep schedule, my diet, because I want to keep up with him. And he calls me a ball of fire, and I'm thinking, he's even a bigger ball of fire. He consumes so much information and produces so much work product that it's the finest that the world's ever seen. I mean, the finest undersecretary that we've ever had in the Department of Defense. And I think when history looks back on what you've done, not just with the acquisition, but technology and with all the logistics, getting in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan, managing that big job, getting to places that are just hard to get to. What you've done, and everyone thinks it's this magic lever you pull and acquisition is automatically fixed, but what you've done, not just to bring down program costs, but to give the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, the finest capability and the finest tools and the finest training that this world's ever seen. And we've still to this day feel the finest force because of what you've done. Goes down second to none. And today, these manufacturing institutes that are the national treasure for our nation, and it will live on to lead to a strong industrial base that will continue to innovate and continue to dominate, will make your dreams of technical dominance and tech superiority a reality. With that being said, please stand to welcome the Undersecretary, Honorable Frank Kendall.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Andre, that was way over the top. I'm going to get even with you for that. All right, because frankly, if this guy tells you you're high energy, that's a hell of a compliment. I pinned the medal on Andre for his years of service to DoD just recently, and I talked about how he came on board as the director of small business. I had interviewed him and a number of candidates. It was a position a lot of people were interested in, and a couple of candidates. I didn't pick him right away, and the reason I didn't pick him was I thought he was overqualified, and I thought somebody would steal him from us within a few weeks of him probably coming on board once they got to know him. And so, and he didn't have exactly the right small business kind of bureaucracy background we thought would be appropriate for the job. A couple other candidates didn't quite make it through the process. So I was talking to Ash Carter, who was the undersecretary at that time. I was his principal deputy. And I said, you know, there was this guy I interviewed who was really terrific. And I didn't feel he was quite exactly the right fit. And I thought, frankly, we weren't going to be able to hold on to him because he's so good. I said, let me bring him back and see if he's still interested in this. So I brought Andre back in, and he certainly was. And he came in and has been a ball of fire. I don't have anywhere near your energy, so that was bullshit that you were just talking about. But hey, in case you haven't noticed it, we're getting to the end of administration, and and we're Congressman. I mean, what the hell, right? At this point, as you said, we may as well have a good time this morning, right? But anyway, I brought him on board, and he transformed small business for the Department of Defense. I mean, we went from being, you know, a point or two at least short of our goal every year to meeting it every year. We had a steady gain under Andre's leadership, and we did terrifically well. I moved him over to the manufacturing industrial base with a larger scope, and he's excelled there as well. So you've done a fantastic job. You built a great team in both organizations, and I'm going to miss working with you. I did not realize that I had unleashed a hurricane when I made that comment a few weeks ago. And I apologize for that if I made people work an awful lot of extra hours to get to today. But I'm glad we're here. We set off on this journey 4 years ago, and it was an initiative came out of the White House originally. We were asked to support it, and we enthusiastically did. And we're running to the last minute here. I heard something on the radio the other day about pilots. And I'll just share this story with you real quickly. I'm departing entirely from my script at the moment. And it was a story about pilots, and there was somebody on who had been a career pilot, and he was talking about, you know, real pilots and good pilots versus not so good pilots. And one of the things he said was that if you get in trouble in your airplane, real pilots keep right on flying until the last possible second, no matter what. So we're going to keep on flying this airplane the last possible second, no matter what, and making progress. So this is an example of that. So I'm glad to see you all here today. And Andre, again, thank you for your kind introduction. Congressman, Mayor, it's great to have you with us. Remind me at the end, I'll tell the same story that I did at the White House, just to make that point. You know the one I mean, too, right? So 4 years ago, which my script says short years, I think they're actually pretty long years, but 4 years ago, I attended the ceremony to announce the establishment of the department's and the nation's first manufacturing innovation institute, America Makes, in Youngstown, Ohio. And it was very much an experiment at that time, but it's been a tremendously successful experiment. 3.5 weeks ago, this is the White House, to announce the department's 7th and the nation's 12th Manufacturing Innovation Institute, the Advanced Tissue Biofabrication Institute. And during my remarks, I mentioned my hope to announce one more, as Andre said, before the end of the administration. Here we are. I'm reminded of a phrase that one of my bosses used a lot, yes, we can. And we did, right? I cannot think of a better way to spend one of my last days in office, and am I announcing the department's 8th and the nation's 14th Manufacturing Innovation Institute, the Robots in Manufacturing Innovation Institute. The department, along with our partners in the Departments of Energy and Commerce, have grown Manufacturing USA from one institute with 65 members to a national network of 14 institutes with over 1,300 members. It's a great accomplishment. I'd like to start by saying thank you to all of those who have made this happen. You've done a tremendous job. And this is a very large group of people, okay? Adele's sitting in the back. She's been a major figure in this. Andre, obviously, has been a leader for us. Tracy, thank you for what you've done. But in addition to the team in OSD, we've had colleagues in all the other departments across the services. The hard work of doing the source selection, the evaluations, working contracts, and administering them goes to the services. And I think each of the services now have participated in manufacturing institutes. I'd like to give that team a big round of applause, please. Six years ago, I came back to the Pentagon after being in the private sector for 15 years. I had worked in government before that. I'd been an operator. I'd been here in the department as a senior executive. But I've been out of touch with some of the threat developments during that period of 15 years. And I started getting my daily intelligence reports each morning, and I look at technical intelligence a lot. Those reports made it clear to me immediately that our adversaries and potential adversaries are designing weapon systems aimed directly at defeating U.S. capabilities, particularly power projection capabilities. Those threats remain and have continued to advance over the last several years that I've been back in the government. And as we are in a very competitive game, and it is absolutely critical to our national security that the United States stay ahead of that curve. I remember when I left the Pentagon, when I was in the Pentagon earlier in the 90s, and the Cold War ended, we got a chance to look at a lot of Soviet equipment. They were trying to sell it to everybody, and we've been studying this equipment, trying to gather intelligence on it for a long time. And I got to go out and crawl over a lot of it at air shows and at other places. And the thing I observed right away was that while they had interesting and creative designs, they had good engineers, they had good scientists, their manufacturing technology was far, far inferior to the United States. And we were able to build designs that they could conceive of, but they lacked the technology to actually build them. And that's why manufacturing technology is so important to us. To maintain our technological superiority, the department requires investments in advanced manufacturing technologies to shape the capabilities of an innovative industrial base, and to aid in the economic and timely acquisition of our nation's defense systems for tomorrow. Manufacturing is very much a national security matter, both as a driver of the United States economy and as a source of critical technology for our warfighters. It's for that reason that the Manufacturing USA program has been so important to the Department of Defense. It is also why I'm very proud to announce the award of the 8th DoD Manufacturing Institute. The winner, this is it, as if you didn't know already, of the Robots and Manufacturing Innovation Institute is American Robotics, a nonprofit established by Carnegie Mellon University and located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Give them a hand. On January 9th, the Department of Defense signed a technology investment agreement with American Robotics to establish the Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute, or ARM. Over 14 technical experts representing the federal government departments or agencies participated in the acquisition process. Department of Defense representation was provided by the Army, Air Force, Navy, Defense Logistics Agency, and the Office of Secretary of Defense. Awarded by the Army Contracting Command, the Technology Investment Agreement establishes the first 5 years of the Institute's operation. Financial support will be provided by a combination of $80 million in Department of Defense funds and more than $173 million in non-federal cost sharing. The Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute currently consists of 84 companies, 45 academic institutions, and 102 government and nonprofit organizations. Members of this industry-driven, nonprofit, public-private partnership include small through large businesses, DoD research and development laboratories, public and private universities, community colleges, other research institutions, federal and state government entities, and local governments. All of these members are collaborating to meet future commercial and defense requirements. This is truly a team effort. Advanced robotics represent a potentially game-changing technology that can address present and future challenges on multiple DoD platforms. Now, we're talking in this case about robotics for manufacturing. But, Tracy mentioned this room that we're in. If you look around on the walls are the names of Medal of Honor winners. Many of those medals were awarded posthumously. So we're very interested in robotics in order to not have to award so many medals of honor, so that we can use robotics on the battlefield. But that's not what this is about. This is about the more efficient manufacturing of machines that the Department of Defense and products in general that the nation will use to further our economy and our security. And at the end of the day, it's all going to be about having fewer names on these walls so that people don't have to go sacrifice themselves to preserve our freedom nearly as much. And that they'll have a significant advantage, that our people in uniform will have a significant advantage on any future battlefield. The Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute will work to integrate the diverse collection of industry practices and institutional knowledge across many disciplines in order to establish an industrial commons and lasting collaboration. This will not only meet key defense needs by helping to mature robotics-related technologies, ARM will also enhance U.S. manufacturing competitiveness well into the future and will give the United States a decisive position in the face of global competition. The Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute will enable the rapid scale-up and affordable manufacture of technologies to enable and expand the market for robot platforms themselves. The Institute will encourage the development and scale-up for commercialization of critical enabling technologies such as perception and sensing, human-robot and robot-robot collaboration, robot control to include adoption, adaption, learning, and repurposing, autonomy and mobility, and dexterous manipulation. ARM will also establish common standards and testing protocols in order to allow for the integration of multiple robotics technologies across multiple organizations. We'll create a robotic technology solution repository and will provide workforce training and education programs to ensure the United States can effectively utilize and collaborate with robots in a broad spectrum of manufacturing environments. A healthy academic and industrial base in robotic technologies will allow the United States to more effectively deploy robotics across all aspects of the Department of Defense, from rapid, affordable, as-needed scale-up and scale-down of critical weapon systems to entirely new modes of human-robot teaming. This will give our warfighters a second-to-none capability and protection on all battlefields. Advances in computation, materials, adaptive autonomous learning, collaborative human-machine decision-making, and various forms of unmanned teaming will better enable warfighters and robots to safely and decisively conduct their missions. I'd like to now introduce you to our next speaker, Dr. Subra Suresh, the 9th president of Carnegie Mellon University. Prior to assuming his role in 2013, Dr. Suresh served as the director of the National Science Foundation. Dr. Suresh is the only university president and one of only 19 Americans, this is a big deal, to be elected to all 3 national academies, medicine, science, and engineering. That's pretty impressive. That's a much shorter introduction than what Andrew gave me, but it's a much more impressive one as far as I'm concerned. A distinguished engineer and scientist, Dr. Suresh's research into the properties of engineered and biological material and their connections to human disease has been published in more than 300 research articles, 25 patent applications, and 3 books. His research has shaped many disciplines and technologies at the intersections of engineering, science, and medicine. Before I ask Dr. Suresh to come up, I want to make the comment that I made at the White House. And this is, Congressman, partly for you, I think, but also for others in the room. We do these source elections. I found when I was in industry that industry does not trust the government competitive source selection process. It's sort of a dark hole. You send your proposals in, and then you get an answer after a couple of months, and people come out, or maybe many months in some cases, come out and tell you whether you want or not, and then you get some information about, what you're. If you won, you're happy. You don't really care about what everybody else did. But if you lost, you do care a lot. And I've been in this position a few times, and you get some explanation of why your proposal was not, the winning one. We get lots of letters from people, congressmen, senators, governors, mayors, etc., advocating for their particular constituents, usually, to win these competitions. The way we do these competitions is they're done entirely by career civil servants and military people. They're done strictly according to the rules of the competition. So all those letters don't do any good whatsoever. There is nothing political about this process. And if you want to win, the way to win is to put together a great team and write a great proposal. And it'll be evaluated on its merits. That's what we did here. So anybody who wins one of these things, it's got nothing to do with politics. This is a completely apolitical process. And frankly, I will tell you that the source selection teams care much more about surviving a protest and having their judgment and their conclusions upheld than they do about who actually wins. It's a very, very unbiased process. So the team that won ARM, you can take a lot of credit for what you did. You wrote a great proposal, and you won. With that, ladies and gentlemen, today it gives me great pleasure to introduce you Dr. Subra Suresh, President of Carnegie Mellon University. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary Kendall, Mr. Grudger. I also want to thank Congressman Mike Doyle, Secretary Davin, Rich Fitzgerald, and Mayor Bill Peduto for joining us here today. I'm really delighted to represent all of my colleagues from Carnegie Mellon University. We are truly honored and are humbled by your selection of our university for this very prestigious recognition, which I'm sure will have a significant impact on the nation and the world in the years to come. I want to say two things. In addition to the significance of this for Carnegie Mellon and the significance of this for the nation, it's also a milestone personally, having served this administration and this president for 3 years, to come back to see, and having had the opportunity and the privilege to lead a science agency, to see the impact of science in creating jobs, translating the technology to impact society in new and unique ways, is also quite significant for me personally. I want to thank the Department of Defense for choosing our proposal, and our elected officials for supporting it, even though we just heard their support does not matter. Nevertheless, thank you so much, Congressman. He has helped us in so many ways, and I want to echo that sentiment that Secretary Kendall said. One of the reasons that the National Science Foundation is viewed as a gold standard among science funding agencies in the world is the separation of politics from science. And I think it was really important to hear that from the Secretary. By choosing the proposal that Carnegie Mellon researchers spearheaded and the team we assembled, the U.S. Department of Defense continues a long tradition of partnering with CMU scholars and researchers in work for the greater good of the nation. I would like to ask all of my colleagues from Carnegie Mellon to please stand and be recognized. In particular, I would like to acknowledge two people who did the bulk of this proposal. Professor Howie Choset, whom you'll hear from shortly, and Professor Gary Feder, who's sitting here. As an academic leader in pioneering technologies that create new businesses and industries and bolster national security, Carnegie Mellon continues to be a stalwart partner for government and industry to meet the vital objectives of the Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute, an institute for the entire nation. Just as Carnegie Mellon is a logical partner in this endeavor, Pittsburgh is a logical location for the Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute. There we have leveraged our experience in robotics to build on our advanced manufacturing infrastructure through the launch of this unique entity. New technologies, including many pioneered at Carnegie Mellon University, have been central to the economic revival of Pittsburgh and the Western Pennsylvania region. The ARM Institute will continue that tradition, take it to a new level, serving as a catalyst to turbocharge the local and regional economies, and will also benefit the entire nation. Pittsburgh's ARM Institute is uniquely positioned to create and deploy robotic technologies that will make American workers more competitive in the global marketplace, create and sustain new jobs that enhance our national security, and heighten the ability of small and medium-sized businesses, which make up the vast majority of manufacturing companies in the US, to also benefit from robotics technologies. In fact, day after tomorrow, I'll be joined by a team of faculty and staff from Carnegie Mellon to travel to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And this year's theme, Responsive and Responsible Leadership, brings together a lot of sessions that focus on robots, advanced manufacturing, the future of the workforce, etc. And I'm really delighted to say that Carnegie Mellon faculty and staff are playing a very critical role in framing that conversation, framing the dialogue, looking at it from all perspectives, so that we can tap into to the fullest extent the intended benefits while avoiding the unintended consequences of technology. Making robots and robotics less expensive, multi-purpose, and easy to program, as well as safer for regular human interaction, is critical to improving the human condition and building a strong national and global economy for the 21st century. Far from threatening jobs, robotic manufacturing will and can help create them if addressed carefully with all the societal and human implications in mind. And through this new initiative, we will not only make robotics more accessible to American workers, we will usher in a new age of robotics that generates new jobs in the industrial heartland and across the nation. There haven't been that many new manufacturing-related jobs created in this particular way for many years. Empowering workers and establishing and maintaining U.S. leadership in advanced manufacturing are all outgrowths of the next great industrial revolution. And we are supposed to be in the very early stages of the so-called fourth industrial revolution. This is a revolution in which new and transformative technologies such as robotics, driverless cars, and cybersecurity, key aspects of all of which were pioneered at Carnegie Mellon. They are easily integrated into and benefit everyday human experience. While basic science created the new technologies that we sometimes find challenging to incorporate into our daily lives, those challenges can and will be met by the application of basic science to real and evolving human concerns. We at Carnegie Mellon do that across all disciplines, and our role in securing this institute is no different. Even as this institute will focus on robotics, those robots will need the secure operating systems that we develop. The Institute for Advanced Robotics Manufacturing will benefit not only from CMU's pioneering research and technical expertise, but also from our distinctive strengths in areas such as policy, data analytics, cybersecurity, and ethics, with the potential for significant impact in the human and societal dimensions of technological change. CMU's extraordinary blend of capabilities in these realms will be featured for world leaders next week at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and it has recently been recognized in investments such as the $10 million gift from K&L Gates, a law firm based in Pittsburgh, to study the ethics of artificial intelligence. A project of this magnitude and scope would not have been possible without the wonderful teamwork of numerous faculty and staff at Carnegie Mellon. On behalf of all of my colleagues, I express our profound gratitude not only to them, to our colleagues in the federal government who have worked so hard to bring these institutes into existence, as the Secretary said, over the past 4 years. Many spin-offs have come out from Carnegie Mellon. We are here today because of one of those newest spin-offs, Advanced Robotics Manufacturing Institute and American Robotics. Let me again close by thanking the Department of Defense for its abiding confidence and reliance on Carnegie Mellon. And we're really looking forward to serving the department, serving the country and the world. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure now to introduce Howie Chauset, a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. Howie is very well known in the robotics universe, but one of the things he does, in addition to a lot of other things, is to create a snake robot that is so real that people who are afraid of snakes are really spooked by the robot. And it has so many applications in so many different domains. And these are heads of states, presidents, distinguished visitors to our campus. So every time we have an opportunity to take them to see Howie's inventions, this is quite remarkable. And Howie has played a major role as a technical lead for this proposal in putting this together. Howie.
So, first and foremost, thank you. If the audience will indulge me I'd like to express my gratitude as well to some of the other people that the previous speakers acknowledged. First and foremost, I want to thank the VIPs, the Undersecretary, Andre, our delegation from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as well as the university. Thank you for taking your time to come down here and share in this celebration with us. This was an incredible undertaking. Okay, it's just the beginning, but it was still an incredible undertaking. Our partners from UTRC, Citron, Lockheed Martin, RPI, Oregon State, far more I can mention very, very briefly. So many people I have to say thank you to. But first and foremost, I would be remiss in not acknowledging Gary Fetter. He has this hobby of wanting to start these institutes. His mentorship of me, his stewardship of this process, and his relentless hard work, without that, we would not be here today. So I want to thank Gary Fetter. Also, George Durakos, Shella Ware, Nancy Pollock. Again, I don't know why they worked so hard supporting this effort, but it's just amazing. I'm in awe of their hard work and their service, and I hope, along with Gary, we can all work together in future projects. Finally, I want to acknowledge Kristen Bennett and her team for their wisdom, their insight, and their passion that they put into putting this project together. I don't think we could have crossed the finish line without them. So to Kristen, once again, thank you. So last, I want to thank Tracy Frost and the other members of the Department of Defense for selecting robotics as a topic. This is a wonderful opportunity for the nation, for different regions in the United States, and I'm so honored that they selected us to be able to serve our nation. We're going to create robotics technologies that are going to create jobs, empower the American worker to be cost effective with workers in other low pay, low salary regions in the world. We're going to lower the barriers so small and medium companies can embrace robotics technologies, so large companies can also embrace robotics technologies when they've already committed to some infrastructure. And most importantly, we're going to assert the United States as the leader in industrial robotics technologies. Right now, we're not. Okay, I'm very proud to be collaborating with our colleagues in Europe and Asia, and we want them to continue, but we don't want to be left behind. And that is critical for our strong manufacturing base, as well as for the security of the components, the machinery that we're going to be making with robots. So for that, once again, I'd like to thank you. One last piece of gratitude I'd like to express, and that is to Dean Bartles, for him agreeing to become our CEO, having faith in us, and wanting to move forward. So with that, I'd like to ask Dean to come up and say a couple of words.
Good morning. So standing in this hall is really humbling, and it really makes you think about your life. And I couldn't be more honored to have this opportunity. I feel like I'm channeling a couple different people right now. One comes to mind is Vice President Biden. I'm told this morning that he was featured on the front page of the Post-Gazette along with the announcement of this institute. And in his famous words that I think all of you are familiar with, the quote, "This is a big deal." Okay, I left out a little bit there, but this really is a big deal. I also feel like I'm channeling Isaac Newton, who, he's kind of famous for saying something like, I'm going to get this wrong, but something about, if I've seen further, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And here we are with the 14th Institute today. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Adele Radcliffe and all the work that she's done standing up the initial institutes, and for Tracy to pick up the ball from Adele. So we're really, really fortunate to have such a fantastic government team, and credit to you, Andre, for picking really great people to work with. But everything they've done to create all these institutes it's really amazing. It's all about helping manufacturing, right? But it's truly humbling to be in this hall. I've got a 25-year-old son who's in the Air Force, and he's been part of the combat rescue team. And their job is to go rescue the guys that got hurt. And to think about the work they do, And what we want to do with these manufacturing institutes is we want to make manufacturing better because we want to make DoD products better. I've heard Adele talk about this where, manufacturing superiority underpins national security. There's no mistake about that. When our soldiers go to fight, they've got the best equipment in the world. And it's because of manufacturing in this country. And we want to make that better. And I tell you, working with a team like the team that Hallie and Gary have put together with Carnegie Mellon, also very, very humbling for me to be a part of that. I think sometimes, Hallie and I are going to be working so closely together. It's nice that we complement each other so well. I think between the two of us, we probably have average weight. I also think between the two of us, we have average IQ. So I really, really appreciate the opportunity to work with the Carnegie Mellon team. So my youngest son, he's at RPI, majoring in computer science. And when he was searching for colleges, and he told me he wanted to major in computer science, I kept saying, what's wrong with Carnegie Mellon? It's the #1 computer science school in the country. Why don't you look at them? He goes, Dad, I can never get into Carnegie Mellon. I've got your genes. I'm like, all right, fair enough. But a great, great school, and they have such a fantastic history of robotics. The entire city of Pittsburgh has such a great history of robotics and a great history of manufacturing. So to be part of this team and to have the opportunity to work closely with Hallie and Gary and the rest of the Carnegie Mellon team, as well as all the fantastic industry members that have pledged to be a part of this, very, very exciting and very, very humbling, and I really thank you for this opportunity.
So it's my pleasure now to introduce Congressman Mike Doyle, who represents our district from Western Pennsylvania. Congressman Doyle is the founder of the Congressional Robotics Caucus. He's a very strong supporter of innovation, science, and technology in Washington, in Pennsylvania. And even though, as Secretary said, his influence has had no impact on the selection, I want to express our profound gratitude to you for all the help that you've given us over the years, your inspiring support, your counsel, the work you've done for us in Washington, in Pittsburgh, and your engagement with our campus and our community. So I would like to invite you to come and say a few words.
Wow, this is a great day. Hey, Andre, tell Frank, thanks for those final comments. Now I don't have to write all those damn letters anymore. This is a great day, but not a surprising one. This is big for Pittsburgh, but this is big for the country too. Throughout my entire career in Congress, starting my 23rd year now, one of my top priorities has been to revitalize our nation's manufacturing base and to create the kind of jobs that people could sustain families with. And in Pittsburgh, we like to build things. It's our history. And I've been privileged to join other community leaders in southwestern Pennsylvania over that span to try to leverage our region's strengths, our manufacturing expertise, our work ethic, our world-class research universities. And really, when a lot of people ask, about these Rust Belt cities, and they said, how did Pittsburgh, turn itself around? It's a model that gets talked about all the time. Really, one of the real keys to our success has been our universities, universities like Carnegie Mellon, University of Pittsburgh, all the great research that goes on in our area really has spurred the innovation and a spin-off of a lot of these companies that you see. And, the approach that we've taken in Pittsburgh, it's been remarkably successful. And President Obama has noted this a number of times as he's visited our city. I think I'm about to serve my 4th president, and I can't remember any president that's visited our city as many times as President Obama has. And it's been a credit to what's been going on in Western Pennsylvania, but it's also been a credit to all the hard work that takes place at our universities and our businesses all throughout the countries. It's no surprise to see our mayor here, Bill Peduto, our county executive, Rich Fitzgerald, representing Governor Wolf, our secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development, Dennis Davin. All of these gentlemen have been real partners with us in Western Pennsylvania. And the reason that you see a lot of the success we have and the movement you have in Western PA is because we all work together. We have these great public-private partnerships working together in Pittsburgh, and that's really been one of the keys to our success. Supra, we've had a chance to have many great conversations together and talk about Pittsburgh and its future. And you're a great leader of a great university, and you're just going to continue to do great things. And this is going to be transformative, really, in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be great for the nation, too. DoD has always had these similar goals. We need to retain a vibrant and capable industrial base. We have to maintain our place in scientific discovery and technological innovation. And we have to make sure we have a workforce that's educated and trained so that we can develop these new jobs of the future in advanced manufacturing. So I think you found a dependable partner here in this selection you've made. And I know that it was made strictly on the merits of that proposal. But those of us that are privileged to represent these regions are proud to write letters of support too, even though they mean absolutely nothing when we write it. So it's no surprise to any of us that Carnegie Mellon and this proposal was the one that was selected. We had great faith in that proposal, and I just felt that this week when we started to hear rumblings that this might be happening, this is a real, and thank you so much for doing it before the 20th of January. I'm glad you got that last one in before the administration changes. We appreciate it, and I think you've got a great partner here, and you're going to see a tremendous return on investment in this new center. Congratulations to everyone who's a part of it, and the only thing could be better than this is the Steelers beating the hell out of Kansas City on Sunday. Thank you.
I'll do a quick admit. I'm from South Florida, so it was a sad day last week. I got a call from my dad. He wasn't real happy. Thank you, Congressman Doyle. Appreciate your comments. Next, I'd like to introduce Secretary Dennis Davin. Secretary Davin was appointed to serve as Secretary of the Department of Community and Economic Development in January of 2015 by Governor Tom Wolf. Secretary.
Thank you very much, and this is truly a great day. It's great for the obviously for the Pittsburgh region, for the state of Pennsylvania, but really for the country too. And on behalf of Governor Tom Wolf, I am pleased to celebrate this incredibly timely funding being awarded to Carnegie Mellon University and a host and a variety of other organizations, including universities. And the private sector, and truly this is a public-private partnership. It's an incredible. I read through just the sheer number of organizations that are involved in this, and it is absolutely incredible. You know that this selection was picked, and I've been told actually by Congressman Doyle numerous times that his letters actually are the reasons that we get a lot of these things. So I'm not sure what the secretary was talking about, but yeah. At least that's what he tells us. Mayor, yeah, county executive. So this tremendous partnership brings together some of the crown jewels of our state, and we're proud to embark on such a meaningful endeavor. Pennsylvania and the Pittsburgh region really has a deep history and rich legacy in manufacturing, and it has long been the foundation for the state's economy, and things continue to be headed in the right direction. As an example, and we talk about this a lot now, and as some of you may know, with substantial support from the state, Royal Dutch Shell has made will be making a $6 to $8 billion investment in the Pittsburgh region. in Beaver County in western Pennsylvania for a polyethylene manufacturing facility. This will be the first producer of polyethylene in the state's history and one of the largest economic development projects in state's history. And we believe the broader region has the ability to attract other types of industry, not just the plastics industry, but a variety of other types of industry as a result of this. Access to inexpensive ethane and propane creates enormous downstream opportunities and provides materials for all types of manufacturing companies and facilities. So the Advanced Manufacturing Institute will take those opportunities, we think, to a new level and anticipate a range of manufacturing enhancements for companies that rely on robotics for automation, other operations, and companies that don't rely on robotics yet, but will rely on robotics for their operations. We're absolutely grateful to the Department of Defense. Thank you very much. And I'm very proud that our resources, our manufacturers, and our universities will be a foundation for the evolution of manufacturing for the next generation. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to introduce my former boss. And Andre, no matter how long it is or whatever, you always have to suck up to your former bosses. Just so you know, this is County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, and he is probably one of the hardest working people I've ever. Actually, he is the hardest working person I've ever worked for. Truly great guy. And the one thing that for people that don't know the Pittsburgh region, we are blessed not only with great representatives like Congressman Doyle in Washington. But you're going to hear from two dynamic examples of why, in Rich and Mayor Peduto, in why Pittsburgh is really, and the Pittsburgh region is really taking things to a new level. So thank you very much. And Rich, please come up. Thanks.
Mr. Secretary, thank you. And thank you to the governor for, first of all, providing the resources to prepare the site, the Almano site as it's known for those of you who aren't from Pittsburgh. That former J&L steel site of LTV, J&L and LTV, where steel was made for decades and decades, part of the manufacturing heritage that we have. I want to thank the Secretary. I know he had to leave. I also want to thank Congressman Doyle. I know he had to leave to get back to vote on the floor in Congress. Regardless of what the congressman will tell you, his advocacy for the things that we do well in Pittsburgh, and we do many of them well, and President Suresh and the great university that he leads had the best plan, had the best proposal, I am sure. But you have to have the salesperson who can go there and deliver that message to be able to tell the benefits of why Pittsburgh and why Carnegie Mellon and why Western Pennsylvania is the best place for the robotics and manufacturing initiative that the Department of Defense is doing. So his advocacy often goes understated, but we know in Pittsburgh what he's able to do for us. We are proud not to be just a home of this Robotics Institute, but really to answer the call again to serve this nation in its defense capacity, as we have done for so many years. And again, in this site, the former J&L site, which was called in many ways the arsenal of democracy, when all the steel that was made in defending democracy during World War II. And it comes full circle again, rising out of the ashes, the phoenix rising out of the ashes of this former industrial site. And you can't pick a better place than Pittsburgh to do this, because when you think about the innovation of manufacturing, science and technology, where steel was developed, where aluminum was developed, where the electrical industry was developed, glass, all the great things of a century ago and on into the 20th century were done in Pittsburgh, and were done at places like Carnegie Mellon. So I want to thank President Suresh for his great leadership of Carnegie Mellon University, the great work that they do. As Mike said, Pitt and CMU have really, provided a great impetus for Pittsburgh to as we like to say, after 30 years, become an overnight success story when we kind of fell on hard times when the steel industry went down. And again, there's no better place to do this than Pittsburgh, because one of the things we do very, very well is we collaborate. We work together. Business, industry, our universities, our workforce, the government, at all levels, the federal level, the state level, county level and the city level doing all these things. And my next job, I guess, is to introduce my good partner, Mayor Bill Peduto. You know, today's a big day in Pittsburgh. We have our big pep rally for the Steeler game. As I think somebody said, we're playing Kansas City, and I hope there's no folks from that neck of the woods. We're gonna do pretty well, I think, in this game. But the mayor and I don't miss those pep rallies for very few things. But today there's not going to be a mayor and a county executive waving the terrible towels back in Pittsburgh. And the reason that is because we're working together. Although I did wear my black and gold tie like Dr. Suresh did, so I want to thank the two of us for doing that. Mayor allowed to leave early before he could grab it. But really, the mayor's vision and the mayor's initiative and the things he's doing in leading our city back to a new day in where we're going. And again, I want to thank all the partners who have done this. And let me introduce my good partner, our friend, Mayor Bill Peduto. Mayor.
Tie-in, you know, I got like Kansas City red on. I didn't even realize. Actually, the true story is I forgot to pack a tie, and I bought this at the airport, and a comb. But first off, two thank yous. First off, to the Department of Defense for the belief in Pittsburgh and for the investment that you're making. I can assure you that we won't let you down. And then to Carnegie Mellon University, which is why they didn't have tartan. So I thought red would be the closest that I could get. And Dr. Suresh and your team, you're both a visionary and a doer, and it's hard to find both characteristics in people. Some people can see things that others can't, but implementing it and actually making it happen is difficult. Others have that ability to look at things pragmatically and get things done, but they don't have the ability to see a vision beyond. Pittsburgh is blessed to have you and your team. And today is just another time when we get to realize that. When you back clean up after three politicians, there's not much left to say, so I'll just speak from the heart. Rich, Dennis, Mike, myself, we're Pittsburgh kids, born and raised, live and die in a city that we love. We all come from the same era. Old man Mike, I guess, might be about 10 years older, but we saw our city die. You know, I was born in the 60s, and Pittsburgh was a global leader in heavy industry. And by 1979, when I started high school, the Steelers won their 4th Super Bowl in 6 years. The Pirates won the 2nd World Series in the 70s, and Pittsburgh's industry collapsed. And for so many people, they thought it was temporary, that the mills would come back. This couldn't happen. Manufacturing couldn't leave Pittsburgh. But for others, there were visionaries. There were people at Carnegie Mellon who in that same year created the first program in the world in robotics. And by the 1980s, when Pittsburgh was fighting through 20% unemployment, Carnegie Mellon University was creating the first doctorate program in robotics and bringing to the city world-class researchers and scientists to build an entire new industry that would take foothold in Pittsburgh. By the late 1990s, the last steel mill was closing on the site where this center will open. And there was a division and fighting between groups like the Steelworkers and the Sierra Club over what could be and what will happen if we let the last mill close. Today, as we talk about these partnerships between universities and all levels of government, of the foundation community, which will help to develop and rebuild a community that has not seen any growth in 50 years. As we talk about these critical partnerships, even groups like the Sierra Club and the Steelworkers are working together in Pittsburgh to look at clean sources of energy and how we can produce them and build and manufacture the parts of it that are needed right here in Western Pennsylvania. That's why Pittsburgh survived, because we understand the importance of partnerships. And we understand that we do stand on the shoulders of George Westinghouse and Andrew Carnegie and those that saw a different way of doing things. Because it wasn't steel that built Pittsburgh, it was the Bessemer process. And it was the innovation that together with partnership was able to see a city rise to a global level. And it's the actions that we're taking today that will allow us to get back at that table. And for that, on behalf of the people of Pittsburgh, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for those comments. I'd like to now introduce Mr. Doug Ramsey. Mr. Ramsey is a recognized expert with over 20 years of experience in the materials and advanced manufacturing fields with a focus on defense, aerospace, energy, and information technology sectors.
Well, it's a real honor to be invited to speak to you today, and I'm going to echo a lot of what has already been said, but a true heartfelt congratulations to the team from CMU. I know it's been almost 12 months of scheming and plotting and planning to pull this team together. And what the team asked me to come up and talk to you about, they said, Doug, bring passion. I said, okay, if you know me, I could bring passion. And I'm a native to Pittsburgh, and it's wonderful to see the reinvestment coming into Pittsburgh. I lived through the same era and saw the downturn. And what I really want to speak to is today we have the 14th Institute. And this has been a cooperation between the U.S. government, the departments of the U.S. government, industry, universities, nonprofits, to try to close an innovation gap, a technology gap that had widened between our manufacturing industries and our innovators, and where the technology was percolating within our markets. We saw a downturn in manufacturing in the 90s, and we're seeing an uptick today. And there's a number of trends that for the industry and the manufacturers, it was hard to digest. There was innovation happening in a couple of critical fields. High-performance computing was coming online. Pervasive computing. The ability to have a computer on your wrist today is unimaginable 20 years ago. What does that mean on the factory floor? How do you bring that trend in and make it meaningful for the products that you develop, the way that you operate, and intelligence? That's the next big challenge. Artificial intelligence is bleeding into everything we do. Our devices are waking up. It's a little scary, but if properly directed, the potential of what that means for our manufacturing enterprise is a revolution, and it changes how we educate our children. The jobs that we're going to create are not going to be the jobs in the steel mills. They're going to be the jobs that are right there making as much steel as we ever did in Pittsburgh, but doing it in an entirely innovative way. We might not be rolling large sheets, but we're going to be printing them. And we're going to be putting them into devices that serve not just our consumers, they serve the warfighter. And what the government did to pull these institutes together was revolutionary. Our industry struggled to understand the pace of Moore's Law. And many of our industries, they picked a fight with Moore's Law. And it's not a good idea to pick a fight with Moore's Law. These institutes pulling together the coalition of the willing has created pockets of innovation that are bleeding out across the nation. And Carnegie Mellon is at the center for automation. Automation, intelligence, and it will touch every industry that is fundamental to giving us an unfair advantage internationally. And Howie said it right. There's innovators overseas that are outpacing us. When we send our war fighters out into the field, we guarantee that they have an unfair advantage. We never won a fair fight. We never won a fair fight. Manufacturing should never have a fair fight. And this is a step in the right direction. So thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Robert Mandelbaum. Dr. Mandelbaum is the Managing Director of Advanced Technology Laboratories at Lockheed Martin. This division of Lockheed Martin pioneers technologies in intelligent robotics, spectrum systems, informatics, and applied sciences. Sir?
Good morning, and got to say it's a real honor to be here. Thank you. As was mentioned, I run the corporate R&D labs for Lockheed Martin. I want to start off by saying that Lockheed has a very long and very proud history of building trusted capabilities for our customers that combine innovation, scientific innovation, trusted technology and engineering, and accomplish our missions. And I think I'm not sure if we're the only one, but we certainly are one of the only companies that is part of all 8 of the DoD institutes. This is the 8th one. So I would like to thank the executive leadership of my corporation, and that would include Jeff Wilcox, who's the corporate sponsor of all of these institutes, the CTO of Lockheed, Keoki Jackson, and Marilyn Hewson, the CEO, for not just being champions, but really encouraging and underpinning innovation as a key cornerstone of Lockheed Martin, and really providing all the encouragement that they can to make sure that the rest of the labs and everybody within the corporation understands the real importance of innovation. So for this morning, Howie asked me to talk about the importance of the team and the importance of NNMI in general. A lot has been said. I can't say very much more about the details of it. All I can say is, if you look back at over the last 500-600 years, what has made the various economic empires both thrive and maintain themselves, and then ultimately be replaced by the next one. Talk about the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English. It's not always been about who has the biggest guns or who has the most guns or even who has the most gold. It really comes down to productivity. Who could build and maintain the most productivity? As long as they maintained the productivity, almost everything else followed. The ability to build ships, to build guns, to build everything else all came out of the economy. And at the heart of that was this productivity. So if you look at what NNMI is really geared at, or this particular one in robotics, is how much more could you find the intersection of productivity and innovation than in the idea of using robotics to enhance the productivity of the manufacturing environment in the U.S. And help us to maintain our economic superiority for decades to come. Finally, about this team, what can I say? This is really the dream team. In my former role, before I was at Lockheed, I was a DARPA program manager. It was one of the programs that I started, the original ARM acronym, stood for Autonomous Robotic Manipulation. And there, in typical DARPA fashion, we put out a BAA, and we attracted the best of the best across the world. I mean, that's what DARPA always does. The proposals that come into DARPA, are the best. And of all the best of the best, we selected the 6 top proposals at the time. I got to say now that about 6 years on, if you look at this team, that's RIME, maybe it's just a small, close-knit community, but almost every one of those performers are on this team. This is the team of the best of the best of the best in the world. There is no other team like this that you could form to do this kind of to do this work in robotics. So I'm very proud to be part of this team. I'm glad to bring Lockheed to this team. I think this team now has all the tools, all the resources, and at the heart of it, the innovative spirit to really make a difference. So thank you for the opportunity.
So in closing, I want to again congratulate American Robotics on a well-earned award. I know our whole team looks forward to working with you in partnership and moving and advancing robotic technologies. I personally have worked with Carnegie Mellon earlier in my career on some robotic programs, and they were so kind to keep one of the prototypes around, so it was exciting for me to see at our site visit that was still there and a nice little plaque on the wall. And next time I come up, I need to get a picture next to it so I can show that to my kids. But I'm excited to work with it. And Dr. Suresh, I believe we've worked in the past with the technology transition programs. I came from ONR, and we worked with NSF on their technology transition program and ours as well. So I'm excited to work with this team. I have some history there, and I know it, as it was just said, this is the best of the best. In the short time that we've actually also worked together, if there's any indication with our team and your team together, we'll move mountains. And I think we did in that announcement that was made at the White House, and I have to give credit to our contracting officers, because at the White House, I kind of was hoping that the webcast camera was not on my face when he made that announcement, and behind me was the contracting team that leaned forward and said, "We got this. We got this." And I was the one that kind of rushed Andre on the stage and said, "Do we really got this? Do we really got this?" And he said, "Can you do it?" I said, "Let me check with the team." I went back and we made calls, and by the next day, everyone was on board. Everybody canceled their Christmas leave, their holiday leave, and said, "We're going to make it happen." And so I am so proud to work with this team, and I look forward to this. So as a final set of thank yous to the government team, I just have to take the time to point everyone out. To my leadership, thank you. And Andre, every time you tell that story, I cringe, because sometimes you tell the full version. This time you didn't and spared me. He left out the part where I went up to meet with him after he spoke, and I stood in line and stood in line and stood in line, because he usually has a long line of folks that want to talk to him afterwards, and I missed the opportunity. They ushered him to the back of the room, and I don't know, Farouk's here. I think he might have been with you at the time, and if you can get through Farouk, that's an accomplishment in itself to get to Mr. Gudger. And they didn't know me. And when he went out, there was actually a buffet line of food, and he was walking by getting some lunch, because there was everybody else was out inside the conference. And I followed him along the line with the food, and I said, "I'm talking to you one way or the other." I said, as you said, I was inspired by what you had to say, and I knew I needed to work for you. So thank you for the opportunities that you've given me. The technical team, can I please stand up? We have to acknowledge you. They're from Air Force and the Army. They have worked tirelessly from the beginning to the end of developing this topic to the proposal evaluations. I was pulled out for, as you know, we had back-to-back awards, and so I have been bouncing back and forth and was not able to sit in as much as I would have liked. And the effort that you have given is staggering. So thank you for that. The contracting and legal counsel from the Army Contracting Command, please stand up. I mean, you could not, and unfortunately legal counsel's not here, but as much as, everybody wants to say our team made it happen, those are the folks that made it happen. We can't get through this without the technical team pushing hard and the contracting and our legal folks being behind us. They made it happen. They know how to get things done. So I think you'll be happy working with them as well. And then to our own team at OSD and all of the support from Bite Cubed and Answer, can you please stand up? There's already been many long days and many long nights last night. And I promise going forward, if it looks like we'll be past 8 or 9 o'clock, I'll buy dinner. Potato chips and soda are not a great substitute, because that will not keep the energy up. But you guys have been amazing to work with, and I look forward to continuing our journey together. And even though they know it's just started, every single person on that team continually asks, "What can I do to help?" I've never heard once, "That's not my job," or "I have to go home." We all have families, we all have other commitments, and every single time they've said, "What do I need to do? What can I do to help?" And they have stepped up. And so I'm very proud to work with you. And now to celebrate, please join us. We will have a reception next door in the back room. And I just have a super quick public service announcement. If you have a red visitor's badge, oh, I like that. That was in sync. Everybody look down. Please find somebody that has on an escort badge that looks like this. If you need to leave the room to use the restroom, which is right outside the hallway, I promise they won't go in with you, or to leave the building. If you end up down in security with your red visitor badge and you try to drop it off, they'll realize you're without an escort, and we will be, Mr. Gudger will be yelled at. And we don't like when Mr. Gudger's yelled at, because then we get yelled at. So please just find somebody with this badge. If you need help, just find anyone from the OSD team, and we'll help you get out. Thank you very much.